Are you an intuitive introvert? Know the signs? INFJ and INTJ. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like you're not just quiet, you're deeply tuned in? Like you can sense things others miss, or feel drained by surface-level conversations? If so, you might be more than just an introvert. You might be an intuitive one. In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we're diving into the hidden signs that reveal whether you're an INFJ or INTJ, the rarest and most visionary types of Carl Jung's personality theory. As you listen, reflect on how these insights show up in your life, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Are you beginning to see yourself more clearly? Let's explore this path of inner truth together. Chapter 1. You don't see the world, you decode it. You don't just look at the world, you decode it. While others take things at face value, you're scanning for patterns, absorbing energy, sensing what's unspoken. You feel the undercurrents beneath every word and gesture, picking up the truth behind the mask. Carl Jung called this introverted intuition a rare inner faculty that doesn't rely on logic alone, but on deep symbolic knowing. This is what gives you the uncanny ability to recognize what others miss, to anticipate outcomes, to connect dots that haven't even been drawn yet. You walk into a room, and before a single word is said, you already know who's at peace and who's pretending. You sense shifts in energy as clearly as others see color. Someone may smile, but you can feel their exhaustion beneath it. Their words may sound fine, but their energy betrays sorrow. That's why people often feel seen when they're with you, not because you ask the right questions, but because you already feel the answers forming before they speak. Your brain isn't just processing data, it's mapping meaning. You see behind the scenes, beyond the surface, and into the heart of what's really going on. In everyday life, this shows up constantly. You may be out with friends, and everything appears normal, but something feels wrong. There's a silence too sharp, a laugh too hollow, a glance that lingers too long. While others carry on, unaware, your inner world is already alert, sorting through signals others can't even detect. You often can't explain how you know, you just do. And more often than not, you're right. This is what makes you both powerful and misunderstood. People may call you intense or too much, when really, you're simply connected on a deeper level. Carl Jung understood this. He saw that intuitive introverts like INFJs and INTJs operate through a different kind of intelligence, one rooted in internal perception rather than external stimulation. You think in layers, perceive in metaphors, and reflect constantly. You don't react instantly because you're processing meaning, weighing intention, feeling energy. Your quiet isn't emptiness, it's depth. Your pause isn't hesitation, it's insight. And yes, this depth can feel isolating. You might question yourself, feel overwhelmed by the emotional noise of the world, or carry burdens you can't explain. But this is the cost of seeing what others don't. Your intuition is not a weakness, it's a soul compass. In a world driven by speed and distraction, your stillness and inner clarity are revolutionary. You are not here to blend in. You're here to understand what's hidden, to name what's unspoken, to bring truth into light. This isn't just a personality type. It's the architecture of your soul. You are wired to perceive meaning, to sense the future, to guide others through inner sight. You are not fragile. You are finely tuned. And your presence brings spiritual wisdom into a world desperate for depth. Have you ever sensed something no one else could explain, like reading the energy in a room, or feeling someone's truth before they spoke a word? If so, share your story in the comments so others can learn from your intuitive experiences. If not, comment, I will observe deeper, and let's explore the unseen world together. Chapter 2. Solitude feeds you more than social validation. You're not antisocial. You're selectively social. You don't avoid people. You simply value quality over quantity. Surface-level conversations exhaust you because they lack substance. You're not here to talk about the weather. You're here to talk about the weather inside people's souls. You crave authenticity, depth, and meaning. And when those things are absent, you'd rather be alone than pretend to connect. This isn't rejection. It's refinement. You're tuned in to energy, to truth, to the subtle undercurrents that most people miss. That's not a weakness. It's spiritual wisdom in motion. Your solitude isn't loneliness. It's sacred. It's where your ideas bloom and your spirit breathes. In a world constantly plugged in, you've learned that your greatest power comes from unplugging. The silence doesn't scare you. It feeds you. It's in your quiet moments that your intuition sharpens, that your soul speaks. Others seek validation from the outside, but you seek alignment from within. You understand that peace isn't something to be found in people or places. It's a frequency you cultivate in stillness. In solitude, you don't feel empty. You feel whole. You're not drawn to noise. You're drawn to resonance. While others chase applause, you chase alignment. That's the difference between validation and truth. You won't trade your intuition for popularity. You'd rather walk alone in clarity than join the crowd in confusion. There's something unshakable about someone who trusts their own inner compass. You don't need to be seen to know your worth. You feel your value in how deeply you think, how sensitively you perceive, how purely you love. That's not being sensitive. That's being awake. Your life is not about fitting in. It's about seeing through. You weren't built for surface. You were built for the soul. You notice what's unspoken. You feel energy before words are spoken. You know when someone's smiling, but sad. When something looks right, but feels wrong. This is not paranoia. It's pattern recognition. Carl Jung called it introverted intuition. And for you, it's a superpower. It connects you to layers of life others can't access. It's what makes you visionary, what makes you deep, what makes you different. And yes, being different can be isolating. But for you, isolation isn't exile, it's evolution. You're not lonely. You're preparing. You're refining your vision, protecting your peace, and preserving your energy for those rare moments when real connection finds you. Because you know the truth. Not everyone will understand your silence, but the right people will feel your presence. Not everyone will understand your distance, but the right ones will respect your boundaries. You weren't made to be loud. You were made to be clear. Do you feel the quiet pull of solitude calling you inward? If so, comment below. I choose solitude to affirm your path of inner strength and self-discovery. Let's grow together, one peaceful moment at a time. Chapter 3. You are both the observer and the architect. You are both the observer and the architect of your life. You don't just watch the world unfold, you feel it, sense it, and decode it from a place of quiet depth. While others chase after answers in the noise, you stand still in your silence, not because you're lost, but because you're aligning. Your silence is not absence, it's intention. It's the space where your inner world takes shape, where vision turns into clarity, and clarity turns into design. This isn't overthinking. This is creation from within. You analyze not to react, but to understand. You don't rush to respond because your intuition is working beyond the surface. You're mapping out the emotional undercurrents, noticing the energies that most people overlook. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That's exactly what you do. You awaken through observation. You feel the shift in a room before a word is spoken. You sense the truth behind the smile. You hear the meaning behind the silence. This isn't just about being introverted. It's about carrying a depth that doesn't need to explain itself. You don't lead with volume. You lead with presence. You don't command attention. You draw it with stillness. You navigate life with a spiritual compass, quietly realigning the path not just for yourself, but for those around you. Your decisions are not impulsive. They are precise, rooted in clarity that comes from looking inward. This is not a weakness. It's mastery. Your spiritual awakening didn't come from noise. It came from noticing, from staying quiet enough to hear your soul speak, from realizing that being misunderstood is not a flaw. It's often a sign that you see more than others are ready to acknowledge. You're not intense because you're broken. You're intense because your energy holds depth. And not everyone is prepared to meet you there. As an intuitive introvert, whether INFJ or INTJ, your power lies in the unseen. You are the one who reads between the lines, feels beyond the obvious, and thinks beyond the moment. You don't just witness reality, you reshape it. Not through control, but through alignment. Not through force, but through vision. While the world speeds up, you slow down. While others shout, you whisper the truth. And in that quiet, your spiritual wisdom begins to ripple through everything you touch. Comment below. I am the architect of my reality. If you're ready to step into your power and lead from within. Your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom in motion. Chapter 4. You feel like an old soul in a fast world. You feel like an old soul in a world addicted to speed. While others chase the next trend, you long for silence, meaning, and truth. The fast, shallow pace of modern life doesn't energize you. It exhausts you. It feels like noise, not just around you, but inside you. That's because your soul is wired for depth. You don't just see life as it is, you sense what it could be. You notice the stories behind the eyes, the emotions hiding beneath words, and the subtle energy shifts no one else acknowledges. This isn't random. It's a gift, an intuitive perception that Carl Jung described as introverted intuition, the ability to connect dots that no one else even sees. You don't live on the surface. You live beneath it. You resonate with symbols, metaphors, dreams, things others dismiss as abstract. You're the one who pauses during a conversation because something felt off. The one who feels centuries of wisdom in a single line of poetry. Even as a child, you probably felt older than your peers. You sensed things you couldn't explain. You might have even been told you were too serious or too sensitive, but you weren't. You were attuned. You were connected to something timeless, something Jung called the collective unconscious, a deep inner well of shared human wisdom that speaks in archetypes, patterns, and truths that never expire. In moments of chaos, you withdraw, not because you're weak, but because you're absorbing too much. You step away to process, to protect your inner clarity. You don't thrive in crowded rooms. You thrive in stillness, where thoughts become revelations. You crave conversations that make you feel something, discussions that peel back layers, that challenge your soul, not just your mind. You're not here for performance. You're here for presence. Maybe you felt misunderstood. Maybe the world called you awkward because you didn't play the social game. But Carl Jung believed that these so-called misfits often carry the deepest truths. You weren't born to fit the mold. You were born to break it. You are here to slow the world down, to remind others of the beauty in pausing, in listening, in feeling. The very things the world ignores are the things your soul was designed to bring back into focus. This depth can be isolating, but it's also your superpower. You see storms before they arrive. You sense when someone is hiding pain. You can feel the truth before it's spoken. That's not strangeness. That's spiritual wisdom in action. And even when the world rushes on without noticing, you carry something sacred. The ability to connect the invisible threads that hold meaning together. If you've always felt like an old soul in a fast-moving world, you're not alone. Subscribe to our channel to stay grounded in timeless wisdom, spiritual depth, and soul-centered living. Here, we honor your pace, your truth, and your purpose. Let this be your sacred space in a noisy world. Chapter 5. Your energy is quiet, but magnetic. Your power is not loud, it's deeply magnetic. You don't force your way into conversations or chase attention, yet somehow, people are drawn to you. There's something calming, something grounding in your presence. You don't try to impress, you embody truth. People trust you, often without knowing why, because your energy feels real in a world full of noise and performance. You've arrived at a rare place of inner integration. Your ego no longer drives you. Your shadow no longer hides in the dark. Your soul no longer whispers. It simply is. You've made peace with the contradictions inside you. And now, without needing to prove anything, you radiate calm authority. This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. A spiritual wisdom that's lived, not preached. You've earned your quiet. Because you've done that inner work, your presence becomes a mirror. For some, it reflects peace. They feel safer, clearer, more whole around you. For others, it reveals what they haven't yet faced in themselves. Some will thank you. Others will avoid you. But all will feel you. That's the cost and the beauty of walking in wholeness. You're not just present. You're illuminating. Your silence speaks volumes. It speaks to those who are ready to hear what words can't express. You feel shifts in tone, energy, even silence itself. It's not because you're overly sensitive. It's because you're tuned in. You read people not with your eyes, but with your entire nervous system. That's why you often know when something is off, even if no one says a word. You sense what's hidden. You detect what's unspoken. This sensitivity is your gift, not a weakness, but a finely calibrated spiritual radar. You've stopped trying to fit into spaces that drain you. Small talk feels empty because your soul craves depth. You're not interested in surface-level connections. You want truth, vulnerability, meaning. This isn't because you're difficult. It's because your energy is sacred and you know it. Protecting it isn't selfish. It's wise. The more aligned you become, the more selective you are with what and who you allow into your world. You don't push, you attract. And what you attract reflects your vibration. That's the quiet magnetism others can't quite explain. They feel calmer in your presence, more seen, more grounded. Not because you're doing anything, but because you've become someone who no longer needs to do. Your very being does the work. You've turned inward, tuned in, and now the outer world bends gently in response. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form, rooted, embodied, and invisible to those who only see the surface. You're not here to explain your depth to everyone. You're here to honor it. Let the world feel your presence, not just hear your voice. Your energy has already spoken. If this message resonates with your soul, repeat after me. My quiet energy is powerful. I am aligned, magnetic, and divinely guided. Let this affirmation ground you. And if you felt seen by this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this energy today. Chapter 6. You crave purpose over popularity. You crave purpose over popularity. And while the world may not always understand that, your soul does. You're not here for fame, for fleeting likes, or shallow recognition. You're here for meaning. While others chase trends, you're drawn to transformation, real, lasting change that leaves people better than it found them. Your value doesn't lie in how loud you are, but in how deeply you feel, how clearly you see, and how fiercely you love the truth. If you're an INFJ, your path often begins in quiet pain, feeling like no one really understands you, like you're always one step removed from the crowd. But that pain becomes power when you use it to heal. You listen between the words. You feel what others hide. Your gift is emotional depth, the ability to enter someone's inner world and bring light to the darkest corners. Your life isn't about success the world can measure. It's about soul healing, spiritual awakening, and emotional transformation. You don't just want peace, you want wholeness for yourself and for everyone you meet. If you're an INTJ, your intuition leads you to systems. You see what's broken and instinctively begin building what should be. While others patch up symptoms, you redesign the blueprint. You're strategic, but it's not cold. It's sacred. You're driven not by ego, but by vision. You want to create things that last, ideas that endure, structures that carry humanity forward. You don't care about impressing the crowd. You care about shaping the future. You are here to be the architect of better worlds. Your energy is quiet, but it is not weak. It hums with purpose. You're not here to entertain the masses. You're here to elevate consciousness. Your life burns not with noise, but with clarity. You see through illusions, feel through masks, and move through life with a knowing that others can't quite name. That is not a flaw. It's a frequency. You weren't born to follow the current. You were born to change its direction. Your intuitive mind, your introverted wisdom is a compass, pointing not toward approval, but toward alignment. You don't need validation. You need vision. And that's exactly what you have. This world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth. It needs more souls who crave purpose, not popularity, who care more about impact than attention. That is your strength. That is your role. That is spiritual wisdom in action. And even if others don't always see it, feel it, or name it, trust that your inner fire, is not here by accident. It is the signal that your spiritual awakening has already begun. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on living with vision, not validation. Here, we honor those who choose purpose over popularity and impact over applause. If that's you, you're in the right place. Chapter 7. You predict people. You don't just guess what people will do if you feel it long before it happens. While others wait for words or visible signs, you're already tuned into the undercurrents. A subtle shift in tone, a flicker in their eyes, a change in energy that speaks louder than anything said out loud. Carl Jung described this as introverted intuition, a rare form of perception that processes data from the unconscious, connecting dots that others don't even see. You pick up on patterns, rhythms, and behavioral codes without needing conscious effort. It's not magic. It's pattern recognition on a soul-deep level, and it guides your every interaction. This is why social environments can leave you drained, not because of noise, but because of invisible tension. You feel the difference between what someone says and what they really mean. Their smile may be polite, but their energy carries resentment. Their words may seem kind, but underneath you sense competition, bitterness, fear. You're absorbing emotional static the way an antenna picks up signals. And when you don't listen to what your inner radar is telling you, it leaves you emotionally burnt out, confused, or even physically sick. But over time, you've learned to adjust your distance. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Your gift is awareness, and with it comes the responsibility of discernment. You don't cut people off impulsively. You retreat to preserve clarity. You know when someone's presence is costing you more than you can afford energetically. You sense when the room has shifted, even before words confirm it. This is your form of spiritual awakening, not in loud epiphanies, but in subtle recognitions that become impossible to ignore. Take the example of someone like Maya, a therapist who used to ignore her instincts during client consultations. She'd pick up on red flags, overly charming behavior, exaggerated victimhood, but brush them off, believing she was being too judgmental. Over time, she realized that ignoring these subtle signals only led to deeper issues. So she started trusting her inner knowing. She learned to tune into the energetic field just as much as the spoken word. Her work improved, her energy stayed protected, and her clients benefited more deeply from her presence. This isn't just emotional intelligence, it's energetic integrity. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what you're doing when you honor your intuitive insight. You're bringing unconscious truths into the light, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. It's not about being suspicious, it's about being awake. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the distance you create. You owe yourself peace. You don't need to justify why you walk away from people who drain you. You've already felt the answer. Your boundaries are not barriers. They're filters, letting in only what aligns with your path. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to move through the world with eyes that see beyond illusion, a mind that processes beneath the surface, and a heart that chooses energy over appearance. This is the strength of intuitive introverts. And this is what makes your quiet power unshakable. Do you sense the truth before it's spoken? If this resonates, declare it in the comments. I trust my gift of awareness. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights that honor your intuition and energy. Chapter 8. You question everything, even yourself. You question everything. Your thoughts, your choices, your emotions, and even your own identity. This is not a flaw. It's the silent fire of awakening. While the world may label it as overthinking, you know it's something deeper. It's the quiet urge to peel back layers of illusion and find the raw truth beneath. You don't settle for surface explanations. You dig, you unravel, and you deconstruct until what remains is real. This urge is not random. It's the sign of a soul that refuses to be fooled, a mind designed to see through the noise. You are not afraid to sit with discomfort. You choose truth, even when it shakes you. While others seek comfort in inherited beliefs, you strip them away, one by one, asking, "Is this mine, or was it handed to me?" You'd rather face the sting of clarity than live inside a lie. This is the spiritual path, lonely, yes, but honest. You're not just peeling back layers of personality, you're reclaiming your essence. And in doing so, you begin to hear your own voice again, the one that was buried under years of conditioning, guilt, and fear. You replay conversations, analyze silences, trace the energy behind words. You sense what's unspoken. And though others may think you're too intense or too sensitive, this is your strength. This is your pattern recognition, your intuition tuning into the invisible signals that others miss. Carl Jung called it introverted intuition, an unconscious radar that perceives truths long before they become visible. You're not just aware you're awake. Your thoughts are not noise, they're revelations. Your self-questioning is not weakness, it's a sacred refinement of your path. You live in a state of ongoing alignment. You examine not only your external world, but your inner reactions to it. You notice when something feels off, when energy shifts, when your spirit contracts. This constant checking in, this quiet listening, is spiritual wisdom in motion. You are not seeking to control the world, you are learning how to stay true within it. And with every truth you uncover, your energy becomes clearer, your presence sharper. You're being more grounded in who you truly are. This journey can feel isolating, even misunderstood. But the deeper you go, the more powerful you become. Because to question yourself is not to doubt your worth. It's to demand authenticity. To tear away false layers is not destruction, it's rebirth. You are not overanalyzing. You are transforming. You are awakening to a life that is real, raw, and deeply yours. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of true spiritual wisdom. If you've ever questioned everything, including yourself, share one belief you've outgrown in the comments below, so others can reflect too. If you're just beginning to peel back the layers, comment, "I'm ready to wake up," and join us on this journey of awakening. Chapter 9. You've met your shadow and didn't run. You didn't just survive your shadow, you transformed through it. You stood in front of the parts of yourself that once terrified you. The guilt, the envy, the fear, the deep sadness that others couldn't see, but you felt like a storm beneath your skin. And instead of running, you stayed. You leaned in. You chose to feel what most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You made the courageous decision to be radically honest with yourself. And in doing so, you became the container for your own healing. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light. but by making the darkness conscious. And you lived that truth. Enlightenment wasn't some floating concept or distant idea. It was the raw process of sitting with your shadow until you understood it. You didn't try to destroy the parts of yourself that made others uncomfortable. You didn't silence your anger or deny your wounds. You allowed the darkness to speak. And when it did, you listened not with judgment, but with compassion. You didn't conquer your shadow by force. You integrated it. You realized that wholeness doesn't mean being perfect. It means embracing what's real. The shame, the mess, the vulnerability, the wild parts of you, they weren't flaws. They were fragments of truth waiting to be seen, waiting to come home. You reclaimed them with tenderness. You no longer needed to pretend. You no longer had to wear the mask. Your authenticity became your sanctuary. Through this deep inner work, your peace became sacred. Not the kind of peace that's handed to you through comfort or external success, but the kind that's forged in fire. The kind that only comes from walking into your own pain and coming out the other side with your soul intact. That is the quiet power of spiritual awakening. It doesn't scream for attention, it radiates. And those who meet you now feel it not just in your words, but in your energy. You no longer need to prove anything. Your stillness speaks volumes. People may not understand why you're different now. They may not recognize the battles you fought in silence, the inner chaos you've alchemized into strength. But that doesn't matter. You didn't walk this path for applause. You walked it to reclaim your essence. And that essence is alive now. It's breathing in the way you forgive. It's pulsing in the way you protect your energy. It's shining in the way you no longer betray your truth to belong. The shadow didn't destroy you. It refined you. It brought you home to yourself. And in that return, you didn't just find clarity, you found spiritual wisdom. Comment below, "I've faced my shadow and claimed my peace," if you're ready to honor the transformation that made you whole. Let your courage inspire others on their journey. Chapter 10. You feel others' pain as your own. You're not just someone who notices emotions, you become them. When others suffer, you don't simply observe, you absorb. If you're an INFJ, that pain finds a home in your heart, often before the other person even speaks a word. You sense sadness behind forced smiles, hear loneliness in cheerful tones, and without effort, your soul leans in to carry the weight they cannot. You've likely been called too sensitive, but in truth, your emotional radar is a sacred gift. You are designed to feel deeply, not as a flaw, but as a divine tool for healing in a world that has forgotten how to feel. If you identify more with the INTJ side, your empathy moves differently. It isn't always expressed through emotions, but through systems, structure, and solutions. You see suffering and instinctively begin to calculate how it can be prevented. You're the one who looks at emotional chaos and thinks, "There's a better way to do this." While others may miss the big picture, you're already 2 steps ahead, designing pathways that reduce pain, inefficiency, and confusion. Your mind is both shield and sword, rational, powerful, and infused with quiet compassion. Beneath your strategic exterior lies a heart that genuinely cares, not through sentiment, but through meaningful action. Carl Jung believed that when 2 souls truly meet, they both transform. INFJs and INTJs are often that mirror for others. Your presence doesn't simply comfort people, it challenges them to awaken. Through your energy, people begin to question what they've been suppressing. You aren't here to fix or rescue the world. but to be a catalyst, a quiet revolutionary that awakens emotional depth, spiritual clarity, and the power of introspection. In daily life, this can feel like a blessing and a burden. You walk into a room and instantly sense unspoken tension. You meet someone and know they're hiding their pain before they admit it. While others float through the surface of life, you swim in the undercurrents. This depth can be exhausting, but it's also your power. It's what makes others open up to you without understanding why. They see you as safe, real, intuitive, and in many ways, it's because you are. Maybe you've experienced moments where someone you barely know starts telling you their life story, or where a friend breaks down simply because you asked, "How are you really?" This isn't a coincidence, it's resonance. You carry a frequency that invites truth, even when it's messy. You were born with this energetic blueprint, not to solve everyone's problems, but to reflect back the parts of themselves they've been afraid to face. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. It's not loud, flashy, or even always visible. It's the quiet knowing that your presence itself is medicine. Your ability to feel, to see behind the mask, to listen between the lines, that's your magic. And while the world often rewards those who speak the loudest, you are here to remind others of the value of feeling deeply and living authentically. Your sensitivity isn't here to break you. It's here to awaken you, and through you, to awaken others. You're not here to carry the world's pain forever. You're here to help the world remember how to feel again. If you're still here, it means your heart truly feels deeply. Comment below, "I feel to heal," if you resonate with this sacred strength. Your voice matters, and your presence helps us build a more compassionate world. Chapter 11. Your imagination is a portal, not a pastime. Your imagination isn't a form of escapism. It's a sacred intelligence guiding your life. For intuitive introverts like INFJs and INTJs, imagination is the invisible thread connecting the inner world to the outer one. It's where symbols speak louder than facts, and feelings carry more weight than logic. While others are busy reacting to what's already happening, you're tuning in to what's about to happen. You're not just dreaming, you're remembering the future. And every vision that arises in your mind is not random. It's a coded message from your soul. Carl Jung called this process active imagination, a way to communicate with the unconscious through images, dreams, and inner dialogue. For you, this isn't just a theory. It's a lived experience. You may see events before they unfold, sense someone's emotions before they speak, or feel called toward paths you can't explain. This ability to hold space for things unseen is not weakness. It's spiritual wisdom in motion. It allows you to build reality from the inside out, quietly designing blueprints of a better world, while the rest of the world is still focused on what's visible. You practice what can only be called spiritual architecture. Each quiet reflection, each internal vision, each flash of intuitive knowing becomes a brick in the foundation you are building for your life. It's often invisible to others, but deeply real to you. While many rush to act and perform, you are aligning. You're aligning with purpose, with timing, with truth. There's a silent power in this approach, a mastery that doesn't shout, but shapes everything in its path. This is why solitude nourishes you. In silence, your visions become clearer. In stillness, your inner voice grows louder. You don't need to chase meaning outside. You're sculpting it inside. And because of this, your presence carries weight. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without trying, not because of what you say, but because of what you've already seen and accepted within. Your energy arrives before your words ever do. The future doesn't just happen to people like you, it's drawn to you, because you've already been living it in your mind, nurturing it in your soul. Your imagination is a bridge between now and what's next. And what others call fantasy, you recognize as preparation. You're not making things up. You're remembering truths that haven't yet been spoken aloud. You're translating the language of the spirit into images the mind can understand. So when you catch yourself lost in thought, drifting into vivid scenes and symbolic dreams, don't dismiss it. That's where the power is. That's where spiritual wisdom is born. You're receiving instructions from within architectural plans for the life you're meant to lead. And while the world may call it daydreaming, you know its design. Quiet, intentional, sacred. You are not behind. You are not confused. You are simply building something no one else can yet see. And soon, what exists in your inner world will step fully into your outer one because you honored it first. Chapter 12. You were born to lead quietly, powerfully. You were not made to chase influence. You were born to embody it. This is the quiet truth that defines your presence. You don't have to demand attention or dominate a room to be seen. Your impact comes from the energy you carry, from the calm strength that radiates even when you say nothing. There's a deep power in your stillness, a quiet magnetism that others can feel but rarely explain. As Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." You are living proof that true leadership is the fruit of spiritual awakening, not external validation. You've walked through fire, not the kind that burns skin, but the kind that sears through emotion, identity, and belief. And instead of becoming bitter, you became wise. Instead of hardening, you became more whole. In the silence of your darkest hours, you discovered something sacred. You don't need to control others to guide them. You simply need to know yourself. That self-awareness became your compass, and over time, it taught you to lead, not with noise, but with depth. You hold space for others without shrinking yourself. You listen without needing to speak. You stand firm without having to prove anything. That's the paradox of intuitive leadership. It doesn't require external permission. You give people room to breathe simply by being fully present, and they feel it. Even when they can't name it, they sense the spiritual wisdom in your energy. You move differently because you see differently. Your strength is in your ability to feel deeply and still remain grounded. While others react, you reflect. While others seek power, you seek alignment. And in doing so, you create real influence not through manipulation, but through vibration. This isn't a learned skill. It's a soul gift. And it only awakens through inner work, solitude, and facing yourself honestly. That's why your path has been lonely at times, because your soul was being prepared to lead from a higher frequency. The world may celebrate loud voices and flashy charisma, but you are here to remind others that stillness is power. Your leadership isn't built on titles, it's built on truth. It's in the way you speak only when needed, in the way your gaze sees beyond the surface, in the way your decisions come from purpose, not pressure. Every time you choose integrity over image, you are leading. Every time you choose to be real instead of being liked, you are leading. And that is the essence of spiritual awakening, returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. You don't chase attention. You attract energy. You don't dominate others. You elevate them. That's the power of your presence, subtle but unmistakable. The more you honor this within yourself, the more the world around you begins to shift. You may never be the loudest in the room, but you'll always be the one they remember. Because your energy doesn't just fill space, it transforms it. If this message resonates with your soul, comment below. I was born to lead with grace and power. Let the world feel your quiet strength and never forget, your presence is your influence. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of the intuitive introvert. If something in today's message resonated with your soul, if you finally felt seen, understood, or empowered, know that you are not alone, and your unique way of experiencing the world is a gift, not a flaw. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and make sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the powerful insights we have coming your way. Until next time, stay true to your inner world. It holds more wisdom than you know. When the body goes silent, the soul speaks. The truth behind abstinence. In the silence of the body, the soul begins to sing. This ancient truth, echoed by mystics and psychologists alike, reminds us that what appears to be emptiness is often the birthplace of deep transformation. As Carl Jung taught, when we withdraw from external distractions, the unconscious finds its voice. In today's video, we'll explore the profound spiritual awakening that often follows periods of abstinence, not as deprivation, but as a sacred return to the self. Have you ever experienced a moment when silence revealed something powerful within you? Let us know in the comments below. And if this message speaks to your journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, your space for inner growth and soulful insight. 1. The silence of the body is a spiritual awakening, not a loss. What appears to be absence, abstinence, or emotional withdrawal is often misjudged in a world obsessed with stimulation. But when a woman chooses to step away from physical desire and external validation, she isn't diminishing herself. She's returning home. She's not disappearing into emptiness, but expanding into a deeper presence. The silence of the body is not the end of intimacy. It is the beginning of self-intimacy, where the soul is finally allowed to speak after years of being drowned out by noise. Carl Jung believed that all repressed energy must find new expression. So when the body is no longer fixated on instant pleasure or emotional approval, the soul seizes that moment to rise. This isn't suppression, it's transmutation. And in that shift, something sacred occurs. Energy that once ran outward now flows inward, illuminating forgotten corridors of the psyche. Women in this space often report heightened dreams, sharper intuition, and spontaneous spiritual awakening. These are not anomalies. They are echoes of the truth that the soul has been waiting to be heard. Abstinence, then, becomes a spiritual threshold, not a denial, but a rebirth. It is in the absence of touch that one discovers the untouched parts of the self, the sacred terrain that was never meant for anyone else to reach. In this silence, the feminine spirit reclaims its wholeness. It begins to explore depths that were previously buried beneath layers of longing and distraction. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that this inner quiet is not passive. It is profoundly creative. It is where the soul regenerates, remembers, and reveals. As the outer world fades into the background, the inner voice gains clarity. What once seemed like loneliness transforms into sacred solitude. What once felt like emptiness reveals itself as spaciousness. And within that space, something ancient awakens. This is not merely psychological. It is energetic, cellular, ancestral. It is the unraveling of generational scripts that taught women to measure their worth by affection received rather than presence embodied. When the body goes silent, the soul becomes the author. It writes not in words, but in sensations, visions, and deep knowledge. This is the terrain of individuation, where the false self begins to dissolve, and the authentic self, rooted in divine essence, emerges. In this space, a woman does not seek to be chosen. She realizes she was never meant to compete, only to remember who she is when everything external falls away. The journey inward is not easy. It requires courage to face the void without trying to fill it. But spiritual wisdom shows us that this silence is not a punishment. It is a portal. It is the place where the feminine rises not as an object of desire, but as a sovereign soul embodying her full light. And that light, once revealed, is not dependent on touch or approval. It is sustained by truth. Have you ever embraced silence and felt your soul begin to speak? If so, share your experience in the comments below to inspire others on their journey. If not, comment, "I will listen within," to begin this sacred path of spiritual awakening together. 2. Celibacy and withdrawal are portals, not punishments. Periods of celibacy are not a punishment. They are portals of deep transformation. In those quiet seasons where the body withdraws from external touch and the noise of desire, something ancient stirs within. Abstinence is not about denial, but about transmutation. It is the sacred act of turning your energy inward, allowing it to feed your soul rather than seeking fulfillment from temporary sources. This internal redirection creates a shift, one that frees you from roles imposed by society and births a version of you that is no longer defined by external validation. Carl Jung taught that repressed energy never disappears. It transforms. When desire is not acted upon, it doesn't fade, it rises. It becomes vision, insight, and spiritual depth. In the silence of the body, the unconscious finds space to surface. The soul begins to speak. Your intuition sharpens. Dreams become vivid. A subtle electricity moves through your being. You begin to sense a presence within yourself that was always there, waiting to be remembered. This is the beginning of individuation, not fitting in, but becoming whole. Society often fears a woman who no longer seeks validation because she is no longer controllable. She becomes unpredictable, sovereign, self-sourced. Her energy, once poured into others, now nourishes her creativity, her insight, her power. She stops being a mirror for someone else's desires and begins to reflect the divine within herself. When you choose abstinence, consciously or not, you reclaim your energetic field. You begin to glow, not because someone desires you, but because you've turned your gaze inward and lit a fire from within. Maya, a modern woman, experienced this firsthand. After a breakup, she chose solitude. No dating, no distractions. What emerged from that stillness was not emptiness, but abundance. She began to write, to heal, to listen. Her soul became louder than the noise of the world. She wasn't retreating, she was returning. And when she finally re-emerged, she was not the same woman. She was whole. This is the spiritual wisdom behind abstinence. It is not about giving something up, but about gaining yourself back. It is a rite of passage, an alchemical process where the raw material of desire is refined into presence, awareness, and inner power. The silence of the body is not a void. It is a sacred space where the soul begins to speak, not in words, but in knowing. You don't lose yourself in withdrawal. You find the parts of you that were buried beneath the noise. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to share it with someone who's also learning to reclaim their energy and power. Let's break the myth that celibacy is punishment and show the world that silence, stillness, and sovereignty are sacred. Together, we're rewriting the story. 3. This inner journey marks the beginning of individuation. When a woman stops seeking to be chosen and finally chooses herself, she initiates one of the most profound transformations in her life. According to Carl Jung, this marks the beginning of individuation, a deep inner journey toward wholeness where she confronts and integrates the shadow, the unmet needs, and the unconscious patterns that have silently shaped her. This is not just a psychological shift, it is the essence of a spiritual awakening. The moment she turns inward, something powerful begins to stir. Her silence is not a sign of absence, but of presence. It's the sacred space where the soul, long ignored, finally begins to speak. Choosing oneself means no longer measuring worth by someone else's recognition. It means stepping away from the exhausting chase for validation and instead learning to witness one's own light. This is where spiritual wisdom begins to grow. In the stillness, stripped of distractions, the truth surfaces. The energy once poured into being wanted now returns inward, nourishing forgotten dreams, healing emotional wounds, and awakening buried intuition. As Jung said, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. The awakening is not sudden. It's slow and quiet, unfolding like dawn after a long night. In this sacred silence, many women report changes that seem mystical. Their dreams become more symbolic, their instincts sharper, their presence more magnetic. These are not coincidences. They are echoes of the soul reclaiming its voice. Abstinence, whether emotional, physical, or energetic, creates a container for deeper truths to rise. It is in this inner retreat that the fragmented parts of the self begin to return home. The body no longer runs toward quick pleasures. It listens. The mind no longer chases noise. It rests. And in this return, the woman discovers something radical. She was never incomplete to begin with. Individuation is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It is the sacred rebellion of no longer settling for crumbs of attention. It is the spiritual maturity to sit in solitude, not with fear, but with reverence. The woman who walks this path does not become harder. She becomes more open, but discerning, more loving, but boundaries. Her energy becomes medicine, not because she performs for it, but because she embodies it. She becomes a mirror to others, reflecting back what they have forgotten in themselves. When the body goes silent, the soul is finally heard. And in that silence, a woman finds not emptiness, but expansion. Not lack, but presence. Not loneliness, but truth. This is spiritual awakening in its rawest form, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, honest, and irreversible. Are you ready to choose yourself and begin the journey toward wholeness? If so, comment below. I choose myself to affirm your commitment to this path of individuation and spiritual wisdom. Let's walk this journey together. 4. The pain of disconnection is a necessary rite of passage. Pulling away from relationships and societal expectations can feel like being exiled from everything familiar. There's an ache, almost unbearable at times, that surfaces when a woman chooses to disconnect from the noise of the world. She may feel invisible in a room full of people, misunderstood by those she once trusted, even judged for walking a path that others cannot see. But this pain is not a mistake. It's a sacred invitation. This is not isolation. This is immersion. She is not breaking down. She is being drawn inward. What feels like emotional death is actually the first breath of spiritual awakening, a silent rite of passage that only the brave accept. In the quiet, where distractions fade and the external world loses its grip, something ancient begins to stir. It's the soul whispering beneath years of conditioning and roles she was told to play. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and that becoming often begins in the dark. The discomfort she feels is not a void, but a passage narrow, sacred, and necessary. She is not vanishing. She is shedding. The woman who felt small is dissolving, so the woman who is whole can rise. The absence of affection, of being needed, of being desired, it all begins to carve out space. Not emptiness, but expansion. In that space, she meets herself in ways she never could when her body was tethered to fleeting touch or superficial validation. Her inner voice grows louder. Her dreams become messengers. Her instincts sharpen. Emotional clarity begins to replace emotional chaos. What once looked like a season of suffering reveals itself as spiritual wisdom in disguise. This is not just about abstaining from physical intimacy. It's about abstaining from self-abandonment. It's about choosing the raw, unfiltered presence of your own soul over the comfort of shallow connection. And it is in this brave silence that she begins to transmute pain into power, confusion into clarity, and absence into sacred presence. The old version of her, built on performance and approval, fades away. What rises is a woman rooted in inner truth, unshaken, whole, and fully alive. If you're walking through the pain of disconnection, know that you're not alone. It's a sacred passage, not a punishment. Subscribe to our channel and join a community that honors your transformation. Here, we explore the depths of spiritual rebirth and remind each other that solitude can be a gateway to profound presence. You are not forsaken, you are becoming. 5. She learns to love from wholeness, not from need. She no longer bends to be loved, nor does she twist herself into shapes that make others comfortable. In the quiet space she's created away from the noise of constant validation seeking, she begins to feel something deeper, the power of her own presence. Her transformation didn't come from another person's approval, but from the sacred stillness of being alone. As Carl Jung wisely said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And now, in turning inward, she awakens to a truth she had forgotten she is already whole. No longer ruled by the fear of abandonment or the need to prove her worth, she stops searching for love to fill a gap. She's done performing. She's done waiting for a text, a nod, or a half-hearted commitment. Instead, she pours that energy back into herself. Through long walks without a destination, through journaling that reveals buried emotions, through meditations that bring her home to her breath, she rediscovers herself. The silence of abstinence isn't emptiness, it's spaciousness. And in that space, the soul begins to speak. When she finally opens her heart again, it will not be an act of desperation. It will not be a cry for rescue. It will be a grounded offering from someone who has made peace with her own shadows. Love will no longer be a transaction, a compromise of her essence. It will be a dance between two whole beings, not halves seeking completion, but full energies drawn together by resonance, not need. She has learned that the right love doesn't ask her to shrink. It invites her to expand. There's no more proving, no more shrinking, no more settling for affection that feels like a negotiation. Her new form of love is not loud or desperate. It is calm, radiant, and magnetic. It flows from abundance, not lack. It comes not to save her, but to meet her. Carl Jung's work reminds us that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who we truly are before the world taught us to be afraid. This is the spiritual wisdom born from choosing stillness over chaos, presence over performance, wholeness over need. The woman who once searched outside now listens within. She no longer asks, "Will they love me?" Instead, she declares, "I love me." And that truth reshapes everything. Do you resonate with this kind of love, one that flows from wholeness, not desperation? If so, declare it boldly in the comments. I love from abundance, not need. Let's inspire each other to choose empowered, conscious love. 6. She becomes a beacon of feminine power. She no longer waits to be chosen. She radiates from within. The awakened woman moves differently, not because she's louder, but because her silence carries truth. She doesn't seek validation in the eyes of others. Instead, her presence speaks volumes. There's a quiet confidence in her that makes people pause. What once felt like loneliness now feels like liberation. What once seemed like a void is now sacred space. She has become the embodiment of feminine power, one that does not ask, but simply is. Her silence is not absence, it is pure presence. It's not weakness, it's energetic strength. In a world that constantly demands women to perform, please, and prove, she dares to stop performing. And when the body stops performing, the soul finally steps in. As Carl Jung wisely said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that becoming often begins when you no longer distract yourself from your own truth. The silence she embraces is not punishment. It is initiation. This is not just about abstinence in the physical sense. It's an energetic withdrawal from anything that disconnects her from her essence. The noise of romantic pursuit, the need for attention, the craving for approval, she releases them all. And in doing so, she begins to hear something else, her own voice. Her intuition sharpens, her dreams grow vivid, her inner world becomes alive. Without the distraction of external touch, she begins to touch parts of herself that had never been felt before. She remembers, she reconnects, she rises. In this inward journey, she becomes more than a woman. She becomes a mirror, a living reflection for those still trapped in cycles of pleasing and performing. She doesn't preach. She doesn't convince. Her life becomes the sermon. Her walk becomes the message. She inspires without trying, teaches without speaking, leads by simply existing in alignment. She doesn't beg to be seen. Her light is undeniable. Her energy speaks first. This is spiritual awakening in motion. It's not always loud, and it doesn't always look like enlightenment. Sometimes it looks like solitude, like saying no, like disappearing for a while. But beneath it all, a profound transformation is taking place. She is no longer performing life. She is living it. And so, she becomes the quiet revolutionary. Not because she raises her fist, but because she no longer lowers her energy to be accepted. Her silence becomes her protest. Her softness becomes her shield. Her boundaries become her altar. She walks in self-possession, not because she has something to prove, but because she has nothing left to chase. She is whole. She is here. And she is leading a silent revolution through her being. To honor your rising feminine power, declare it with intention. Comment below, "I radiate power," and let your voice encourage others to rise with grace, strength, and quiet revolution. 7. The body's silence is the soul's language. The silence of the body is not a void. It is the hidden doorway to a deeper world within. What many perceive as emptiness is often the first sacred signal that the soul is beginning to stir. When a woman no longer seeks external stimulation when she withdraws, not in defeat, but in instinct, what emerges is not weakness, but the first ripple of her spiritual awakening. She may not even recognize it at first, but the longing, the restlessness, the desire to retreat are signs that her inner self is preparing to rise. In those quiet hours, when the body stops reaching for pleasure or approval, something miraculous happens. The energy that once chased affection is no longer scattered outward. It begins to gather inward. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Yet here, in this particular kind of silence, there is not just pain, there is clarity. There is expansion. What was once repressed begins to find new form. The energy stored in abstinence, consciously or not, begins to refine itself into perception, creativity, and vision. This is why so many women, after seasons of celibacy or solitude, report more vivid dreams, stronger intuition, or a sudden sense of meaning they cannot explain. It is not coincidence. It is the soul claiming space. And in that space, the woman begins to hear herself again. Her real self is not the version trained to please or perform, but the self that waits in the quiet, whole and untouched. The body's stillness becomes a ritual of remembrance. She sees that she is not missing anything. She is actually returning to everything she lost when she was too noisy, too distracted, too eager to give. Abstinence is not simply the absence of touch. It is the presence of power. When you no longer allow others to constantly access your energy, your clarity sharpens. You start to recognize who drains you, what dims your light, and where you've been giving away pieces of yourself without pause. The woman who once needed affection to feel worthy now becomes the woman who protects her peace like it is gold. This is not resistance. It is rebirth. The truth is, not every desire deserves to be fulfilled. Not every connection is sacred. The body, when left alone long enough, begins to detox from false love and empty attention. You stop craving what once comforted you because it no longer vibrates with your truth. And in that vacuum, you begin to feel a different rhythm, slower, deeper, wiser. You start remembering what it feels like to belong to yourself. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that transformation doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the dark, in the places no one else sees. And when the body finally quiets, the soul does not shout. It simply speaks. And if you're brave enough to listen, it will guide you home. If this message has stirred something deep within you, affirm your journey by commenting, "I trust the soul's whispers. My silence is sacred." Your words may inspire another woman to honor her inner voice. And so, when the body falls into silence, it does not signify absence, it invites presence. In that stillness, the soul begins to whisper its deepest truths. As Jung reminded us, the unconscious always finds a way to speak, especially when the distractions fall away. Whether you're on a path of abstinence by choice or by circumstance, remember, this may not be a void. It may be a portal to self-discovery, clarity, and spiritual awakening. If this message stirred something within you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the profound truths we explore in our upcoming videos. Your journey inward is sacred. Walk it with awareness, and you may just meet your soul there.